So yesterday, myself, a few of the other members of the Young Turks were lucky enough to go to a campaign rally for Bernie Sanders. You were there. Arena, Tim Collins were there. And so we got to listen to his speech, the speeches of a couple of his supporters. We talked to a number of different, both volunteers and people who were there to hear him speak. And it was a pretty amazing experience. We're going to give you a little bit of an idea of what that was actually like, including some snippets from his speech in just a minute. But first, also today, Bernie Sanders, sort of following up from what he had said in his speech, introduced a bill that would, I believe, in a number of different ways, significantly strengthen American democracy. The proposal would amend the U.S. Code to include Federal Election Day, the Tuesday next after the first Monday in November in each even-numbered year, which seems like the most obvious thing in the world. It is amazing that it's 2015 we don't already have that it needs to be proposed. We'll return to that. He's also introduced legislation that would automatically register 18-year-olds to vote, and said last week that he intends to offer legislation that would allow public financing of campaigns. So, look, we're still working on Wolfpack, but, you know, that sounds pretty good too, obviously. So a number of different reforms here. I have often said in the program over the past few years, it astounds me that when President Obama became president, when we had that brief period with the supermajority in the Senate where the Democrats controlled the House, that they could not make a national election day. It seems like the easiest bill in the world to pass. And it would undoubtedly, like if you're being politically cynical, it would help the Democrats. Because the sort of people who have a hard time voting because they don't have a day off of work to do it would be more likely to vote under this situation.
So again, it just goes to the spinelessness of the Democrats, right? Because as soon as the Republicans got control of a state legislature and they got the Supreme Court to overturn the Voting Rights Act, they immediately started suppressing the vote from coast to coast, every place they could do it. And they don't care what people they're doing. They are suppressing the vote. They are denying the vote to citizens in broad daylight as a matter of policy, and they're not embarrassed about it one bit. Here is something Barack Obama and the Democrats should have done, which they could hold their head high about, because we expanded liberty. We expanded democracy to include even more people. So now more people can take part in our democracy, but they wouldn't do it. You know why? Because they're spineless and they're bought. Yes. That's what the Democrats are. They're spineless and they're bought. There isn't a two-party system, and stuff like this proves it.
Yeah. It seems like you propose National Democracy Day and someone attacks it. That is the easiest thing in the world to defend. How the hell could you not make that law? It is... They're a failure as a party, obviously. They wasted that opportunity. But we're here to talk about...
How do you let them close Acorn?
That's a good point
Shirley
as well.
Sherrod.
Yeah, and we'll see with Planned Parenthood as well.
Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
Okay,
All of those would be protected by Bernie Sanders, more than likely.
Yes.
So we did get to see Bernie Sanders. A lot of this in terms of Citizens United, the campaign finance, all of that he spoke about. I was a little bit surprised that when he was speaking about the nuclear deal with Iran and the need to not go to war with Iran, like obviously we're very excited about not having another war, but I figured like it had been long enough since open hostilities in the Middle East that people might have like forgotten how horrific the past 15 years were. But thankfully they have remembered, even though it was overwhelmingly a college-age crowd who were extremely young when we initially went to war with Iraq. But that got a huge applause line.
Yes. Well, I mean, I realized we were talking to a lot of young people at that rally last night who were Young Turks fans or viewers, and I was their whole life we've been at war. Like we're meeting 18-year-old kids, 15-year-old, their whole life. We've been bombing the Middle. I mean, we've been bombing the Middle East
far longer than that.
Far longer than that.
In this current bombing campaign,
in the most recent,
it's their whole life. Yeah.
In this century, we've been nonstop.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you look back on it. And so there were some other surprising applause lines. I want to get to a little bit of Bernie because thankfully, so Tim Collins of the Young Turks was able to take a video of the speech. So here is Bernie Sanders talking about healthcare policy and reform.
Some of you know it and some of you don't. There is one major country on earth, one, that does not guarantee health care to all people as a right, and that is the United States of America. Today, despite the gains of the Affordable Care Act, 35 million Americans lack health insurance, and even more are underinsured. In my strong view, we must join the rest of the industrialized world guarantee health care to every man, woman, and child as a right, not a privilege.
So in his speech, he said that he would go beyond Obamacare and he would do Medicare for all. Basically, he would expand it and create a single-payer system.
About time.
Something that I think on both sides of the aisle we can support. Hell, Donald Trump still seems to support it from time to time. He's not entirely sure.
You know who else supports that? I think I got it. You know who else supports that? Is businesses. It's a big burden for American companies. Like they talk about Japanese car companies as opposed to American car companies, and how American car companies have this burden. Canadian car companies, right? They don't have the burden of providing health care for their workers.
Yeah, I've seen stats of how much it adds to the price of a new car, and it's something, I mean, I'm probably way out of date, but it was something like $1,200 or something like that.
Really? Per car?
Per car. God knows if that's accurate, but that's what I read, and it was on the internet.
And I also find it funny, Bernie Sanders proposes that we have a national holiday for voting.
Yeah.
But they just can't talk like regular people, right? He says, the first Tuesday next, after the Tuesday, Monday, what?
Of the year of our Lord.
Can't you just say the first Tuesday in November
Yeah.
or the second Tuesday in November? It's the Tuesday next after the first Monday. Who says that?
Yeah, look, it's archaic, but if we get it, that would be nice.
Yeah, all right.
It's a bit of the new, a bit of the old.
Yeah, okay.
So that's all good. Now, thankfully, look, he spent I think about half the time he was talking about the economy, but he did talk about healthcare. He also talked, as we said, about our elections, and in this clip, you're going to hear him speaking specifically about Citizens United.
Brothers and sisters, let me be as blunt as I can in telling you that as a result of the disastrous Supreme Court decision in the Citizens United case, the American political system has been totally corrupted, and the foundations of American democracy are being undermined. By a 5-4 Supreme Court decision, what the Supreme Court said to the wealthiest people in this country, they said, guys, you already own much of the economy. Now we're going to give you the opportunity to own the United States government, and that is what they are trying to do right now.
Seems to be true. I was thinking earlier today, I get what he means when he says that the system is broken, and I've used that term too. I feel it's a poor analogy. It's a poor metaphor. It's not actually broken. Broken implies that like it fell and it broke. It was an accident.
And nothing
we should
gets
fix
done.
it.
And nothing gets, that's not what.
It's not broken. It's working perfectly well to the specifications of the people who designed it.
Correct.
And they designed it to be corrupt.
Right, the system has.
It's not faulty.
Right. They designed it to favor the rich and the wealthy and against the working man. So it's working
And
perfectly.
to favor incumbents.
And to in favor, of course,
Yes.
to in favor incumbents and the money elite. So it is. So what maybe he could say is our system is corrupt. Mm-hmm. We have a corrupt system that doesn't serve the people, and that's what he means when he says it's broken. Broken meaning it doesn't serve the purpose we think we created it for,
Yes.
which was we created this grand experiment called America, so that normal people could be free of tyranny and can pursue happiness, right? And unencumbered by the government, and then we can take part in the free market and all that stuff. Of course, what we ended up with was crony capitalism and a surveillance state unparalleled in the history of the world.
Yeah. And an awesome military.
Awesome.
It's great.
And
Have
now
you
we're-
seen the rockets they've got these days? They're pretty impressive. Now, we also noticed, I think you mentioned this earlier today, it was a very diverse audience, and it was a very, this is actually in our production meeting, it was a very female audience, actually. Like, I don't know if it was exactly half and half or if it went one way or the other.
Not one bloody nose in that whole place last night.
Not a bloody nose. Trump would have been very happy. I don't know what that says for the future of Hillary. I'm sure she is still in the polls winning when it comes to women, but he focused a lot on women's issues, and some of, again, the biggest applause lines had to do with equal pay, he talked about Planned Parenthood, he talked about protecting abortion rights and things like that. We also talked about guaranteed family leave. Like, he seems to understand the issues that many different groups in our society care about. And what I was overall perhaps most impressed about was, and look, I don't go to a lot of political rallies, It was nice to be in a crowd that was cheering for the right things, not just watching Republican debates where they're cheering for the absolute most barbaric policies I've ever heard. But it was impressive that he wasn't simply like saying he loves the Constitution or the Bible or the military. It was one specific after another, one more promise of a policy that he will support or oppose. And so you can go to one of his speeches and you can leave it, and you can leave with a very good idea of what he would actually do as president, or at the very least attempt to do. And that was reassuring considering how politicians normally speak in America.